last video, we were looking at this building right here that once housed the Riviera Theater and the Grand Riviera Theater, the Regent Theater, and the Bijou Theater. After the Riviera Theater closed down, there were numerous businesses that went in there, and we'll run through these quickly. In the 1960s, the Port Huron School of Beauty Culture was at this location, a school that teaches hair artistry, and it would seem from time to time that they had hairstyle experts to visit the school. And maybe there's someone out there that remembers one of these three ladies, not the lower ones, the upper ones. Lee's Garage was the next business that went in there, and that was in the 1970s. And you're looking at a couple of ads I found for Lee's Garage. In October of 1974, there was a fire that pretty much gutted the place. It says possible arson in this article, but eventually it was determined that it was arson. The Port Huron businesses, especially those that were neighbors to Lee's Garage, didn't particularly want them to open. There was a lot of crime in the area. They found out after the drunks came out of the bar, they were vandalizing windows and breaking into stores in the area around Lee's Garage. So they went to the city council and complained. But Lee's Garage did open, as you can see from this article. Lee's Garage cooks. Fire can't halt rock and roll. Good times. The witching hour has arrived. It's 11 p.m. on a Friday night at Lee's Garage, and everyone is going crazy. Out on the dance floor, they're jumping and bumping, writhing and rolling. They're even dancing. And the little girl with the glint in her eye, blonde hair down her back, and cling dress on her body is shaking her tail feather. Well, I'm not going to read everything, but I'll highlight a couple things that were in this article. You can see this article has a picture of the owner, Lee Henry, along with his bartender. Henry worked as a bartender at the Elks Club and the Black River Country Club. Lee opened the Blue Goose in the summer of 1972 in the basement of the old Elks Club at the corner of Military and Pine. But because of various hassles, including a lease snafu, the Blue Goose croaked within 6 months. And he goes on to talk about how he decorated Lee's Garage. He said, I had very limited money, and there were lots of junkyards around. The old car parts were the only things I could use for decor. And as he talks about the fire, he says, I had done well before the fire, so the bank was willing to back me. Besides, I owed them money. They had to back me. Lee's Garage closed in the late 1970s, about the same time that disco dances into the Blue Water area. And even though it was quite expensive to convert their bars and restaurants into discotheques, these owners did it. Here's some names you might remember. Safeys, they went with a disco dance theme. Dapper Dan's Cafe, Omar in Marysville, and the Pichu Club. And another place that's not shown on here was the Holiday Inn. They also went with a discotheque. You can also see there's a couple places advertising disco dance lessons. The Harrington Hotel was one of them. None of these businesses that we've looked at so far was the very first discotheque. That honor goes to a place called Tiffany's Disco, which was a bar that was located in Old Lee's Garage building, one we've been looking at on Grand River. Tiffany's Disco didn't last very long, then it became the Bijou Club Teen Disco. And here you can see a couple of advertisements for it. The Bijou Club included an arcade, but the kids had to have a permission slip from their parents in order to play it, which you can see here. But they made one night for just adults, and that was Thursday night, was adult night. In December of 1979, they got new owners and a new name. It would be called the Teen Club Disco. Well, the Teen Club Disco was short-lived. They closed down, and the building was unoccupied for about a year, and then a couple folks from out of town came in and were the new owners, and they went back to calling it the Pichu Club, and they were going to cater mostly to adults. They applied for a liquor license for the business, but up until that time, the teens could come in and enjoy themselves there. And while the teens were there, they could enjoy free drinks all night. Of course, those drinks were Coke, 7-Up, Orange, Tab, ginger ale only. And they even had a rendition of the dating game. The liquor license for the Pichu Club never came. The folks that had license they could sell shunned the Pichu Club, and they couldn't get one through the city because the city wouldn't okay it. This is mainly because of the fact that the merchants around the Pichu Club said they caused just too many problems when they served drinks there. So the owners didn't like that, so despite the city, they decided they would have topless dancers at their establishment. Well, the city took a dim view on that, and so they put a ban on topless dancing in the city. And of course, the club defied the dancing ban, and the case went to court, and the Pichu Club won. They did say that they would stop the topless dancing if they could get their liquor license, but that didn't happen. But the owner of the building sued them because he said that they misrepresented themselves when they talked about the type of business that they were going to establish. Finally, the Pichu Club closed. They wanted to relocate someplace that wasn't Port Huron. After that, they got a new owner and a new name. It was now called the Twilight Zone, a teen nightclub with live entertainment. And this business didn't last long. They were shut down by the police at least once, as you can see here. The building went unoccupied for quite some time. It then became a church. Lord works in mysterious ways, going from a topless bar to a church. The building today is being renovated, but you can still see the cross on the front of the church. The name of the church was Love Outreach Church, and the pastor was Reverend Jim Thomason, better known as Cowboy. John Brown wrote a very nice article about the pastor, Cowboy Lasso's Dream of Establishing a Church. I'll give you some highlights of it. You can read this yourself. Perseverance. Some people have it, others wish they did. Reverend Jim Cowboy Thomason started setting goals for himself and persevering when he was a teenager growing up in Port Huron, South Park. He earned his nickname as a child playing cowboys and Indians, but few people gave him much chance for success as an adult. They said Cowboy was a black kid who could play sports. They didn't expect him to do much more than that. But the doubting Thomases didn't know the heart of this man. Today, this was in 1992, Cowboy, 49, is the pastor of the Love Outreach Church at 401 Grand River in Port Huron. And it goes on to say how he worked for Detroit Edison. He also worked a couple of nights working security at McDonald's on 24th Street. And it goes on to tell how he excelled in the football field for Port Huron High School in the 1960s. He received offers to continue playing football in college, but he turned the scholarship down. Instead, he stayed with his mother and went to work to help two brothers and two sisters who were still at home when he graduated. He said, I was going nowhere in those early years in high school. I was hanging out there on those street corners. I was 18 when I heard the Lord call me. Since I received that calling from God, I've always tried to do the right thing. Most of the people I went with before I was 18 are dead, in jail, or strung out on drugs. There is so much more to life. Goes on to say I don't push my religion. I do it by example. Young people are not any different today than they were 100 years ago. They still learn by example. The church was probably longer at this location than any other business. And in this article here, they're celebrating the Love Outreach Church has 17th annual free turkey dinner in Port Huron Saturday. And the article includes this photograph. People wait outside Love Outreach Church in Port Huron on Saturday before the free turkey dinner. Here's a very happy-looking picture of Cowboy. At the age of 71, he passed away in 2014. Cowboy danced into glory on his favorite day of the week, Sunday. In 2015, Frank Hoffman contacted me saying that he was buying the building. Of course, he wanted to know if I had any photographs, but he went on to tell me what they were going to use it for. He said we plan to use it as a recording studio, fine arts and music venue, banquet hall, and use it for corporate-type events as well. He imagined that they would do an occasional movie screening as well. I know they started the renovations. I'm not sure what the progress is at the present time, though. Well, that's all I have on this building. It seemed like there was more drama off the screen than there was on the screen. Certainly has a rich history. All right, let's go to our next theater. We'll cross Huron Avenue, and the Majestic Theater was right across from the back end of Sperry's. All right, we'll turn right here. And this right here, from about there to about there, was the Majestic Theater. Of course, there was a couple other establishments in the building as well. Well, we have one problem. We just don't have enough time in this video to do this Majestic Theater justice, so we'll get to it in our next video. Join me then.